I'd like to read a little list for you. And just bear with me for a moment. This is a list I made at Carmel High School during an OP round a couple years ago. Drug abuse, child molestation, homelessness, teen pregnancy, cutting, teen suicide, homosexuality, juvenile detention, bullying, gang violence, infanticide, abortion, foster care, sexually transmitted diseases, texting while driving drunk, babysitting, and I stopped. And that was in one piece. And I wish I were lying, but I'm not lying.
This sounds like what a few years ago wound up in OO.
Well, who knows,
All
David?
the time, those themes.
Right. But one of the very first, bits of advice you will get from a professional writer is write what you know. That's the very first thing that you'll get. And did I mention babysitting as one of those? Yes. Okay, yeah. I'm not saying, pardon the tic-tacs, I'm not saying that our kids don't know those things, but we as coaches need to sort of harness those things and help them take maybe one or two of those and narrow them down and develop them. Today, I'd like to share with you a little bit about what we've learned at Warren Central High School about original performance and what we've not necessarily come up with on our own, but we've kind of discovered, and it maybe was already out there, but we figured it out, and we've had a lot of success. And I don't want to toot our horn, but just so you understand the credibility, we've had the good fortune of having at least 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 people in the final rounds in OP since its inception in the state final. Last year, we had 4 of the 6 in the final round state. And so I wanted to extend, share with you what we know so that maybe we can, all help each other get a little better in this event. Because I've judged some rounds in OP, and no offense to you, because it's not your writing, it's the kids' writing, but there's some lousy stuff, I hate to say. And they're just kids, and I get that, and they're still learning, and so we can forgive them for that. But perhaps today I can share with you some things that you can share with your kids that will tighten up their writing and make it a heck of a lot more fun to watch and to judge. And so I want to share with you what I will say is tricks of the trade and OP do's and don'ts. You're going to help me out there, Keegan? Thank you. And so there's my preview for you. Tricks of the trade, I think, will be the most useful thing for you, but I think that you'll also get a lot out of some of the do's and don'ts. And I have to apologize. My school is trying to go paperless. We're 1-to-1 this year, and so they've taken away almost all of our printers. And so, like I said earlier, if there's something that you think might be useful, come up and talk to me after the session, and I will just put your email address into an account and forward this to you. So go ahead and move on. And if you've ever taught drama, this may be something that you've seen before. Has anyone ever seen Crow? Okay, well, at least one of us. Good. Crow, if you're talking about underclassmen, freshmen, sophomores, or rookie OP performers, people who want to write an OP but need a little guidance, Crow is a really memorable acronym for something that you can have them do to start out a scene. Characters, relationships, objectives, and where. And what I tell my students is, the characters, don't just make them a guy and a girl. A really easy way to come up with interesting characters would be give them a job. So we have a funeral director and a school bus driver. And let them be, fathoms apart from each other. And then every character should have some sort of a relationship. Even if it's strangers, let that relationship be known that they're strangers. There has to be some sort of connection with those characters. And then lastly, objectives. Let each character want something desperately in the scene. Now, maybe depending on what they want to write about, it may be both characters are working together to get that, or maybe these two characters or these three characters or however many characters they're putting in the scene want the same thing, but only one of them can have it, and that creates tension. And where there's tension, where there's conflict, there's tension, and we want to create that tension to make it interesting to watch. And then lastly, the where gives them a setting. And don't just put them anywhere, put them someplace specific that might even create some obstacles in order for them to get that desperately needed whatever it is that they want. And so once they've come up with the crow, all right, so we have a priest, a nun, and an escaped prisoner. And their relationship is the priest and the nun had a relationship a long time ago before they became priest and nun, and all of a sudden this illegitimate son is the escaped prisoner. So let's just say that that's what we have. And so let's just play around. Forget drafting lines. Forget, putting things on paper right now. Let's just play around and improvise this scene and see what happens. Because sometimes improvisation can create a lot of fun things that we would have never thought if we were sitting down in front of a computer or a piece of paper and a pen. And so let's improvise this 2 or 3 times and see what happens. And I got to tell you, friends, that some of the best stuff that we've ever put in front of a judge at a speech competition has come from improvising these scenes. And so, if you give it a try, you toss out what didn't work, you hurry up and write it down or run to the computer and write down some of the funny things or some of the tragic things that you said that did work, and then you go back and you try it again. Or let's move on to scene 2. And this is a very, very effective way to get their brains and the gears in their brains moving towards something that is a lot of fun to watch and interesting to write. Go ahead, Keegan. Now, this is another strategy that I've sort of heard of as the magical what if. The magical what if. And the universe is your oyster. There are no limits to what you can throw together. And I have to tell you a story. Keegan Fife, who is one of our coaches, our head speech coach at Warren Central High School, he and I were in my car. And we had like 2 periods in a row. So we would go to breakfast at Qdoba and then still be hungry. So then we would drive to Dunkin' Donuts. And this was like, 2nd period and 3rd period. So we would have a lot of time to talk about OP. And so I don't know how, but there was a...
I offered him a cookie. And he goes, oh, no, thanks. I don't need any sweet right now. And I said, what if this were the last chocolate chip cookie in the world? Would you want it then? And he said to me,
what a great OP title. The last chocolate chip cookie in the world. So then we will we sort of play our role at Warren Central is we kind of, the only way I can analogize this is we kind of play movie producers. In that we say, okay, we have this idea. Who can we cast for this piece? And so then we pick out a couple people who we think might work well or people who want to work together perhaps. And we're like, we have this great idea. What do you think? What if there was only one chocolate chip cookie left in the world? And so, their eyes got as big as chocolate chip cookies. And then we say, how could that possibly happen? And so we come up with all these different scenarios. They say, well, it could be this, it could be this. What do we ultimately decide?
We ultimately ended up, it was a chocolate shortage, and so there was one cookie was detained by the government and kept in the White House. And so the
Pentagon.
Pentagon. And so it was the high security.
Right. It kept in an airtight, sealed, vault, and it was under armed guard. And so we had marching guards in this OP. And it was just a lot of fun because we were creating characters. There were breaking newscast. There was the Cookie Monster. Actually had. Oh yeah. There was a field trip at the Pentagon. So kids were walking around and they learned that this chocolate chip cookie was in the Pentagon. But these are just our suggestions and then the kids doing. And so we give them an idea, and then it snowballs with their imagination. And that all came from a magical what if. And, and that happens occasionally here and there all the time. And I'm sure it can happen with you and your students. So go ahead, Keegan. Thanks. All right, this is where the prizes come into this presentation. On the bus, and I can't remember, I feel like I listened to a radio show on NPR where these guys had come up with this spinning wheel of movie pitches. And so they had created a bunch of different plots and a bunch of different characters, and you sort of play this game and say, well, I didn't go buy the game, but we're going to come up with our own game, and we play this on the bus on the way back from most of our meets. And so it takes anywhere from 4 to 5 people. So if we're talking about 2 people at a table, so if you have 4 to 5 people, then we're going to play this right now, the movie pitch game. So let me and Keegan and Jeff sort of demonstrate for you. All right, and you can join us. So what was your name again? Audra. Okay, so go ahead, Keegan. So here's what we do. It's movie pitch. That's what we call it. And in a world where, and then person number 1, and I'll just be person number 1, comes up with a ridiculous situation. Person number 2 will come up with a random character. Now, like I said earlier, don't let that just be a girl. Give them some sort of job or some sort of more specific characteristic. In a world where a blank, random character, who just wants to do something extraordinary. So your job, person number 3, would be to come up with, that would be you, Jeff, to come up with something extraordinary, but just can't seem to insert an unbelievable obstacle. That's person number 4. And then person number 5, David, can you be person number 5? While doing a temp job until they get what they want. Okay, so you've got to fill in the blanks. Let's backtrack for just a second, one more time. So once again, in a world where a ridiculous situation, that's me. A random character, that's Keegan. Who just wants to, that's Jeff. Audra, but just can't seem to insert unbelievable obstacle. David, while doing a temp job until they get what they want, so you've got to come up with a temp job. All right.
The part there is no one knows what they're, we all say it's kind of
right.
together.
We're going to get in our brain. We're not going to communicate. We're going to get in our brain our role, and then we're going to put it all together and see what happens. So we're going to demonstrate for you now. All right, so give us about 30 seconds or so to think about this. Okay. All right, so Keegan, you'll stay with me on the slide. All right. In a world where circus clowns are banished from society,
a former high school football coach
just wants to build castles on the moon.
But just can't seem to chop his kangaroo entirely in half.
While working as a cashier at a Chinese grocery store.
everyone shouts, movie pitch. Let's all do it together. Let's all together. 1, 2, 3. Movie pitch. All right, very good. So here's where the contest comes in, because I have this candy I bought. And so I'm going to let you group up, and we have 2 tables here, so this could be 4. You're going to need 5, so one of you might have to come up with 2. So if you could group up together, and we'll give you 2 to 3 minutes, and we'll go back and forth so that you can, if you need to see the first slide. I just didn't want to fit them all on one slide because I knew people like Jennifer would be way back in the corner, and I wanted to make sure that I had big font for everyone. So in a world where a random character who just wants to but can't seem to while doing a temp job. So don't divulge to your group what you are going to actually say in your part. So everyone take person number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to get you downstage here in just a moment, and you can share. If anyone wants to share, we'll get you downstage, and perhaps you can earn a apple pop. So take 2 minutes. And while you're thinking, well, on the bus, we probably, on the way home from wherever we're coming, we probably, we'll start this game maybe a half an hour into the bus ride or less, and we'll play it for maybe a good half. We'll have maybe 5 or 6 rounds, and then sometimes the kids who are just not necessarily involved with. And we'll switch the roles. So if you're person 1 the first time, the next time you'll rotate to person 2, and then the next time you'll rotate to person 3, so that we have at least maybe 5 rounds, so everyone gets to come up with either a character or an extraordinary obstacle. And we'll play for maybe half an hour. And a lot of times the kids who are not playing will sort of surround us on the bus, and then they want to jump in, so we'll switch people out so that they can participate. But it's always just a big hit, and everyone just laughs uproariously when everyone screams. Everyone screams movie pitch. So, all right, our last group. Are you ready now? Okay. Let's have this group. If you guys don't mind, can you come down for just a second and share with us? Now remember, afterwards, after the last line, we all have to scream movie pitch. Right? Yeah. Okay. Are you in order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Why don't you do that? And use your best, and let me suggest, use your best movie trailer voice. You know that voice, right? Right, exactly. Exactly. Keegan can do that really well. Okay, here we go. Starting with David? Oh, okay, we're going the Chinese way or whatnot. Okay, that's okay. That's okay.
In a world where small, cuddly puppy dogs are no longer allowed to have Red River balls,
A boy who madly wants to become Miss Teen Indiana
Just wants to start a home for orphaned penguins. But just can't seem to unstick his pet octopus from his face.
While trying to teach music according to Harold Hill's Think system.
Anyone who doesn't have dentures and wants an caramel apple pop, feel free. If you can share, they're delicious. All right, let's get our second group up here. Quite okay. They're delicious. Our second group, very good, very good. All right, come on down, come on down. I'm excited to hear these. These are a lot of fun. All right, you guys are going to go the same way. You're going to go the English way, the American way. So who's one? Yeah, who's one? 1, 2. Okay, we're going to go. Okay, that's fine. Here we go.
In a world where teachers rule the government,
A blind Swedish driving instructor
Just wants to create an artificial substitute for water.
and just can't learn how to twirl a hula hoop around her hips.
While tipping as a waitress in a strip club.
All right, very good. You guys want your suckers? Caramel apple. It's in season. It's in season.
Apple season. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, group 3. Are you group 3? Okay, are you guys going to go the same reverse 1 through 5? Okay. Yeah, oh, okay, very good, very good. Let's see who we got. All right.
In a world where socks are a luxury,
A well-endowed, overly enthusiastic cheerleader
just wants to walk across the United States on stilts.
but just can't seem to not think of a pink elephant when someone says, don't think of a pink elephant.
But their time is very limited because they're busy as the pooper scooper for the Clydesdales.
Group 4. You guys, we'll call you guys group 4. Come on down. Come on down. All right. Are you guys in order? We have 5, right? We have 5. 3. There we go. There we go. Okay.
in a world where people speak telepathically but are limited to 140 characters.
Miley Cyrus's recently fired clothing designer
wants to race in the Iditarod with genetically improved labradoodles, but just can't seem to grow a third nipple.
While being a motivational speaker for high school mascots.
get your sucker if you like. I have another bag if we run out. Okay, very good. There you go. You're quite welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. Is this group 5? Our final group? All right. Are you in order? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Very good. All right. Take it away.
In a world where Tupperware is the currency of the day.
A young Red Cross volunteer wants to quit their job to become a full-time serial killer.
Ian, split the 3. That's okay.
Who just
wants to bake the best caramel souffle in the world.
But she just can't seem to get her shoes on the correct feet.
While working as a salesman at a secondary shoe store.
You guys want your prize? Come get your prize. Very delicious.
Thank you.
Yes. Quite welcome. Quite welcome. Very good. All right. So, if you have students coming to you and say, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, we'd really like to write an OP. We saw our classmates, our teammates last year did really well in OP, and it looks like fun, so we want to give it a try, but we don't know how to get started. Movie pitch might be a fun way to just get the juices flowing and get the gears cranking onto their into their event, and so it's also a kind of fun party game. So I don't take credit for it. Like I said, I think whatever I heard on NPR, I kind of enhanced and put my own flavor into it, and so that's what we play on the bus coming home sometimes. And so that could very well be why we've done well, because you see how the creative juices really do flow. All right, moving on. Now, this is another trick for maybe your upper classmen, the juniors and seniors who are really interested. I mean, it works for the freshmen and sophomores too, but this works because this is something they can grasp in their brain, if you will. Now, we're all familiar with this, and according to my department chair, I'm in the English department, I asked him, when do students start seeing this? And he said, well, they start hearing about these elements, second or third grade, but they don't necessarily see the actual, it's called Gustav Freytag's pyramid, or the dramatic arc, or the narrative arc, whatever you've learned. I think they're all correct. But it's good review, even for my juniors and seniors. It's good review to go back over this narrative arc and say, okay, remember back in 7th grade when you were first introduced this, or whatever grade, and you thought it was useless. Well, now you're finally going to get to use it. And so what we typically do, and this is how we really get them started if they're going to write scenes and drafting scenes, is we will say, here are elements of the narrative arc. What I want you to do, first of all, is we're going to shoot for a 1 minute, I'll go ahead and skip forward for just a second, Keegan. We're going to shoot for 10 1-minute scenes that utilize Freytag's pyramid. And so, if you go back for just a second, Keegan, now. So, what we're looking for is maybe 1 to 2 scenes of exposition, 1 scene for an inciting incident, maybe anywhere from 2 to 4 scenes of rising action, 1 scene of climax, maybe 1 to 2 scenes of falling action, and then 1 to 2 scenes of resolution. And it does not have to be exact. Don't feel like you have to hold your students, and don't tell them that it must be 10 1-minute scenes. But it may turn out to be 9 scenes, it could be 11 scenes, but at least it gives them some sort of framework to kind of follow. And so here's how I sort of introduce this as all. Just to review with them, I say, how do you wake up? Audra, since you're in the front, I'm going to pick on you again. How do you wake up in the morning? Alarm clock, mom, husband?
My Kindle Fire makes a really annoying noise.
Okay, so Kindle Fire wakes you up in the morning. So every day, I teach the kids about the status quo. We all have some sort of status quo. And your status quo is you get woken up by your Kindle every day. But, well, no, we're not playing movie pitch anymore. put that to bed. In a world where everyone's woken up by a foghorn. What I say is, okay, you have the status quo, and then a monkey wrench is thrown into it with this inciting incident. Something happens. So let's just say, and this doesn't have to be spectacular, at least to illustrate to them, your Kindle Fire goes kaput overnight. Your house gets struck by lightning. It's zapped, and it's no longer working. So that's the inciting incident. Now, the rising action, you are desperately trying to get back to your status quo. So first, instead of, you're late for school, so you, instead of taking a shower, you just go to school in your pajamas. And since you missed the bus, you call up a taxi cab, and you get in a taxi cab. But then you realize you left your wallet at home. And so you're putting all these obstacles in the way as the rising action because they're desperately trying just to get to school and just get back their status quo. And then you reach the climax, and you realize, I like to pitch the climax as sort of an epiphany. This is where you realize everything all of a sudden becomes clear, that what you really just want to do is be homeschooled. And now you've reached that emotional catharsis, that emotional high point where you're like, why the hell am I going to school? I can just be homeschooled and I don't have to worry about my Kindle dying out on me because I can get up whenever the hell I want to. So the following action is when you withdraw from school, you talk to your parents and tell them, I'm going to be homeschooling myself. And now you have either the resolution is a new status quo, or maybe you get a new Kindle, you take it back to Barnes & Noble's and they trade it out, and you're getting back to your old normal self again. And that's your story. But anyway, having them come up with, and typically I don't have them write initially these one-minute scenes, but rather I say, listen, summarize next week at your practice time. What I want to see is a summary of 2 to 4 sentences of these 10 scenes. What happens in each of them? What characters do we meet or do we need to see in them? And then after we've gone through and I make sure that it flows and provide maybe a little guidance for them, then they go the following week and they start writing these scenes. And I might say, okay, I want this written by 3 weeks. And so that's kind of arbitrary depending on your students. But I typically, like if a kid says, this is the deck I'm doing, 3 weeks. This is my OO, it's revised, it's ready to go, 3 weeks. So I'll say, the first 3 scenes for week 1, the next 3 scenes for week 2, and then the last 4 are however many got for the 3rd week. And so we just build upon that. So they'll read them, we'll review, we'll talk about revisions for those first 3 scenes. So not only are they writing new 3 scenes, but they're revising the first 3 scenes. And then we'll hear the following week we'll hear 6 scenes. And then we'll talk about revisions for those 6 scenes, and then they will write the last 4. And then we'll hear it all, and we'll talk about revisions for the whole piece, and we'll talk a little bit more about revisions. So that's one of Warren Central's strategies. This is how we do it weekly, and it's been an excellent tool and an excellent strategy for success in competitive speech. So now I'm going to move on to some OP do's and don'ts. OP do's and don'ts. My suggestion to create interesting characters is to create characters who work against nature. Now, this might not be obvious to you, but if you watch movies and TV, you see this all the time. Characters who are thrust in a situation where it's not their normal status quo. And they are trying to get to a status quo. And sometimes these characters just can't get there. And so here's an example of a fish who's afraid of the ocean. And if you think about it, that's true. And, the movie is called Finding Nemo, and you've all probably seen it, especially if you have children or grandchildren. But it's not Nemo's story. It's Marlin's story. And he's the one who's afraid of the ocean. And so naturally taking something that should be there but doesn't want to be there is one strategy. It's taking a character who's allergic to peanuts and putting them in a peanut factory. That's just one example. All right, A rat who loves to cook. Not natural, but Pixar does such a great job of creating these beautiful characters and stories, and this is one of the ways that they're so successful. They take characters who are not naturally inclined to be in their context, and they thrust them in there, and it makes for a beautiful story. Right, exactly, yeah. You can look at any of those stories, and there are some formulas that we'll talk about also that fit those parameters. Go ahead. One thing, put your central character through hell. This advice is something that I garnered from my literary hero, Kurt Vonnegut. Put your main character through hell. And so the first year that they conceived OP, and OP was an event, that's what I told my first 2 students who came and said, "I think we're going to write an OP, Mr. Black." I said, "Okay, put your central character through hell." So what they did was they decided to write a piece about a high school speech student who went through hell in a day out of meat. First thing happened was he woke up to Air Supply's "I'm All Out of Love." And that already started his day off wrong. And then Mom forgot to iron everything. Keegan, you'll have to help me out.
He couldn't find his pants.
Couldn't, right? Yeah, he couldn't. His whole speech uniform was just tattered and torn and not functional for a speech competition. But he had to make do and go. And then once he got to the meet.
Each round went worse than the one before.
Right, exactly. For instance, I remember, I'm not going to do it in order, but I think that like round 1, everyone was speaking in a foreign language. Everyone was speaking, except for him, and no one understood. He spoke English, and everyone else was speaking Chinese and Spanish. And then the second round, he was invisible. He was magically invisible, and people heard him. They heard his voice, like, hold on, but he was like a ghost, and everyone could hear him, but they couldn't see him, and so he couldn't compete. And then, do you remember what happened?
The third round was he thought the judge was Indian. The judge was like checking him out.
Oh yeah. The judge was hitting on him.
So like he had one person in front pretending to like mouth a piece, and then his inner monologue behind him like, that judge is definitely checking me out right now. He couldn't concentrate on what he was doing.
Right. So we put and then I'm trying to remember what happened in the award ceremony. Did he end up getting anything? Did this character win anything? I can't remember. That was in 2004, 2003, 2004. But we took this guy and we put him through hell. And they ended up getting like 4th in the state. And I've heard rumors that they would have won if they didn't shake the judge's hand after the round. And so, which is really lame. I heard that from not students, but from coaches that didn't know I happened to overhear this. Anyway, apart from that, it was a really great story idea. We thought, that's such a great idea. 2 new kids wanted to come up with another speech day. And so we put a student through hell on the first year. The second year, we put a judge through hell. So we had a judge, go through the course of the day. Of course, could never find the coffee or could never find the judge's lounge. Sat through a round of declamation where all 7 kids were doing the exact same declamation, and so it was really funny too because we put them on a revolve, if you know what I'm talking about. Like we put them on a revolve, so they come around and the person was like, the title of my selection is "Stop the World, I Want Off." And then they'd start like the first line, and then they'd turn around, and the person was like, and each student's like, the title of my selection is "Stop the World, I Want Off." And then we'd put them around, and then you already know. And so we put this judge through hell, and it was a lot of fun, and then it got 3rd in state. And by the way, the 2 girls who wrote that, they lost duo partners, and we had about 2 weeks until sectionals. And we thrust them into this. I met with them at 6 o'clock in the morning for 2 weeks straight to get them ready for sectionals. And they ended up winning sectionals, but we had another couple girls who had been winning all year long, and those girls were very upset that these girls who just came in at 2 weeks beat them. So the 2 girls who got beat at sectionals went on to win state, and then those 2 girls got 3rd. But I guess I tell you that story is because I met them at 6 o'clock every morning for 2 weeks, just during the school week, not on weekends. And And OP, if you want to be successful, you've got to be prepared to put in the work. And you're going to hear a little later in the session, what kind of work it's going to take. But you've got to be willing to put in the work. Because so often, and maybe some of you can also attest this, so often you watch a piece in November, and you happen to catch it in December, and you catch it maybe once in January or February, and then you see it at sectionals, and it has never changed a lick. It's the same damn piece that they were doing in November. And they haven't changed a single phrase from it. And that, to me, is very frustrating. And I feel sorry for the students sometimes, and I want to shake some of our colleagues. Why are you letting them do the same piece from November to... It should be... An OP should evolve from the first meet to the last meet. And I have some other examples of how it has evolved for us. Go ahead. Is it, huh? Yeah. Yeah, we put the audience through hell in the third year. And we'll talk more about make that central character want something desperately. And once again, Kurt Vonnegut, my literary hero who taught at the Iowa Writers Workshop, said, make them want something desperately, even if it's a glass of water. Make them want something desperately. If that character is a likable character to your audience, then the audience will want that for them almost as desperately, and will be rooting for them the whole time and hoping and praying that, if you could just get that glass of water, everything would be okay. So you've got to make them want something desperately. And so here are just a couple examples. The poor girl who just wants to get home, and you're rooting for Dorothy all the way through to, please, just let her get home. And Luke Skywalker, who is desperately trying to find his place in the universe. And you're rooting for him all the time. And so these are just a couple of silly examples, but it happens. And so the next thing I say is, where there is conflict, there is tension. And as a writer, you want to create tension. You need to bother your audience. Bother them into, engaging and being a part of the story. And so you've got to throw in those obstacles and throw in those antagonists in order to, root for that central character. Hopefully they will get what they want and create all that tension, because the more tension, the better. All right. Next. Here is a strategy that some of us have seen. We just didn't realize we were watching. Anyone ever have a student do a Christopher Durang piece? I knew Ree's hand would probably go up. Okay. Christopher Durang is a playwright and a professor of drama at Yale University. And he loves to surround his central character with insane characters. The central character is usually the only sane person in the entire play. And everyone else is crazy, nonsensical. And you as an audience are taking this ride with the central character through all these crazy characters. And so here's an example. Little Girl Among Crazy Characters, Alice in Wonderland. If you think about the last time you've seen Alice in Wonderland, or if you've read it, Alice is really the only sane character in Wonderland. Everyone else she encounters is crazy. And they put obstacles up in front of her. Next, A Man Among Crazy Characters. Jerry really is fairly, he's fairly adjusted. But the people he surrounds himself with are crazy. And so that's what makes this one of the best, TV shows in television history, is that, they use this formula of surrounding this one sane person with a bunch of other crazy people. Now, this is the, crazy cast, but even the peripheral characters, Newman and, Soup Nazi, and all these, every single person that Jerry encounters is crazy. And all the girls that he dates, too, are crazy. And so that's a great formula. And even if you tell your students, take this normal person and put them amongst crazy people in this crazy world, and you will have a fun OP to deliver and write. Okay, now we're going to move on to the... I guess we're still in OP dues. Know the 7 plots. Now, this goes beyond what you learned probably in high school and college, man versus nature, man versus himself, etc. These I like a little better, and this comes from an author and a critic, Christopher Booker. And so he wrote this book about the 7 basic plots, and I like these a lot better. Number 1, overcoming the monster. overcoming the monster, whether that's, whoops, hold on. Little Red Riding Hood is the classic example of overcoming the monster. But we could probably think of a lot of other plots in which a central character is trying to overcome the monster. If that's Luke Skywalker overcoming Darth Vader, or, I think that even Beauty and the Beast, she's overcoming the monster and she breaks through to that, next level. The next one is Rags to Riches. That's a pretty common one that we've all heard of, but it really works. And probably in the history of storytelling, no matter what culture you're talking about, there is a version of Cinderella in that culture of storytelling. And Cinderella is probably the most popular story across cultures in the history of man. And so Rags to Riches is probably, the foremost plot. The quest. Having the central character on a quest to, achieve something great. And that goes right along with the other OP do, is make that central character want something desperately. And then put all kinds of obstacles in their way, whether those be, physical, psychological, or other characters, put them in the way. Voyage and Return. And E.T. was, I don't know why I was so stuck on this. E.T. was like the only voyage and return. It's all about his, voyage there, his, attempts to get back, like Dorothy, I suppose, in The Wizard of Oz. But, can anyone think of another voyage and return plot?
Princess Bride, because the kid goes on this adventure and then returns to his grandfather.
Oh, yeah.
In his mind.
Sure, absolutely. That's a great example. The Odyssey, the Odyssey definitely. Is that what you were saying as well? The Odyssey, yeah, absolutely. That's a voyage and return. Anyone else come up with another one? Apollo 13.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's great. Ray? Yeah, the Bible, absolutely. Yep, exactly. So those stories work. And there's something about these stories that are almost like comfort food. When we hear this, story, we have this sense of being home, and we know. Well, we don't always know what's coming, but
Homeward Bound. Sorry.
Homeward Bound. No, that's a great one. That's one. That's one that I haven't seen. That's the puppies that are trying to get back home.
Like a dog and a cat.
Dog and a cat. Wow. Right. Yeah. There we go. There you go. There you go. And that's on your Netflix queue. That's right. All right. The comedy. Now, the one thing about comedy that we've got to understand, and maybe because you're English, some of you are English teachers, or you've been teaching long enough to know that comedy does not always imply humor. Really, comedy is a series of tragic events that eventually come to resolution, and there's a sort of a happy ending. So bad things, bad things, bad things, bad things, and then finally a happy ending. Versus tragedy. And I say hello to my little tragedy. And tragedy is the other way. It's just a flip-flop. It doesn't necessarily, everything is good, everything is good, everything is good, and then suddenly, the world falls out from underneath this central character, and there's tragedy. And so, for some reason, and maybe it's just because of the kids we deal with, we don't write a lot of tragic OPs. We have. Actually, one of our state champions, I guess I can tell this story. Keegan, you might want to tell it, at least at the beginning, because you were there.
It was my first solo meet, actually, and I just flagged this out. And we were writing an OP that had used a poem from I'll Love You Forever, a book.
Oh, yeah.
And we had used this poem as a transition throughout a piece. And so we got challenged at that meet because we had too many words. And
they claimed it.
We didn't have the actual script with us, so we couldn't do anything about it. So they got us qualified for that meet, and so we basically realized, we have to start from scratch. Essentially, we have to take this idea and we have to figure out where else can we go from it. And so that disqualification kind of forced us to completely re-examine the script, and we ended up completely reworking the entire process, the entire storyline, and it was so much better the second time around.
It kind of was a tragedy in that it was called An Elephant Never Forgets. And I don't know if anyone happened to see it in here. And the funny thing about this is that It didn't even get to any final rounds until state, and then it won state. But there's a reason for that I'll talk about later. But yeah, essentially, a little girl is born, and at her birth, her mom, she gets a gift of this little stuffed elephant. And so as she's growing up, the elephant is a security device for her, whatever you want to call it. And, so throughout, and the little girl tells that famous, knock, knock joke, we remember me in 10 years, we'll remember me in 20 years, we'll remember me in 50 years, knock, knock, who's there? Hey, I thought you'd say you remember me. And then she goes on to college, and she forgets the elephant, and she needs the elephant to get her through college because it's that, it's for security, and mom, takes it to her. And then, so there's this elephant is in a handful of scenes, and then finally, mom forgets to pick up the grandchild at soccer practice. And then they go, and mom forgets to turn off the oven. And then, they put mom in the home, and then, the daughter takes the mom, this elephant, she's in the nursing home, and the daughter's fighting with her. She's saying, because she's saying, who are you? Who are you? She's not remembering her own daughter, and she goes on, and she starts to walk out, and then the mom starts singing the song that we had put in with the elephant, and then so they knocked it out, and they won state. And so tragedies do work, but you've really got to be prepared to, go through some emotional turmoil to get that. And as you can see, I apologize, but I'm, even now thinking back, it's very, very powerful, and it can be very good if you do it right. Go ahead, Keegan. And there's rebirth. Rebirth. So we have a character who's really, really bad in the beginning, and ultimately has some sort of emotional catharsis, some epiphany, and gradually they become good, and there's a rebirth. And my favorite rebirth story, I would say, would be A Christmas Carol, but very close second would be How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Yes, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. That's another excellent. So those are 7 plots that go just beyond. You tell a kid, man versus nature, man versus himself. And that doesn't really register. But these, I think, will register with kids better, more effectively. All right. Now, here's the thing. Is that, we talked a little bit earlier about this. I want to make sure that I'm not going over time. Okay, we have a little bit of time. Is revise, revise, revise. Did I happen to mention revise? We will, and I think you can go ahead and hit that, Kevin. We will sit down with students after each meet. And I will say, or Keegan will say, what worked. And the kids will say, well, they really loved this part. We thought they were going to laugh at this, but there was nothing. And so we will go through and we will sort of look at the critique sheets, which, sadly to say, ladies and gentlemen, are not all that helpful most of the time. And then we will go, but we'll just use the audience feedback and what worked, what didn't work, and we will look at every single line from every character, starting from the beginning, and get as far as we can in that half-an-hour time slot that we set up with the kids each week, and we will scrutinize every line and every word and talk about how can we make this line better, funnier, sadder, more poignant, whatever it is that we're trying to get across in that line. And, we'll do that with the ideas. And when we rewrote that Elephant Never Forgets, we did that constantly. And it wasn't until, we're very lucky, we have great support at Warren Central where they will allow us to have a team retreat the day before state. So we do different things in that team retreat, and we'll bring in guest speakers like former Warren Central speech, people and we've even had, guest speakers call in and mic the phone. Like if you've ever heard of Laurie Natero from the Idiot Girls Adventure Club and all those other books, Jane Pauley has called us, etc. Just to kind of, say go in there and get them, guys. But my point in telling you this is that on this day before state, the Friday before state, we go to this venue that a benefactor of ours, shares with us, and we have breakthroughs even the day before state. And one of the lines in that Elephant Never Forgets is the daughter screams at this mom, and this girl was a very good actress in the first place, but she screams at him, I'm your daughter, don't you remember me? And the way she said it, just no matter who was in the audience, you instantly got chills up your back. And part of what we did was we just improvised. I said, time out. We need to create this scene where the daughter's kind of saying goodbye to the mom. And so let's just improvise. So I just had them improvise. And finally, this girl screamed. I'm like, oh my God, you've got to include that in your script. And this was the day before state. And so please, 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 don't ever stop revising, even the day before state. You've got to always be searching for ways to make this piece better.
I think it's really easy for the students to once something's on paper, they look at it as unchangeable, and they feel locked in something. And just saying, like, that character does not even have to be in the script. Everything can be changed. Nothing is set in stone. You're writing on paper, on a computer, you can change anything. So it's easy. We had one OP that got second a few years ago, and we looked back at the first script and the last script. There was one remaining joke from the first script that carried over into the final round version that got second. And that was amazing how much the script had evolved, because we keep different versions. So if one flops, that means we can always go back to it and get before it. We always keep those revisions back in our back pocket. And that was one of the change one of the end of these.
Right, and I know and you know that the challenge in that is, especially if you're performing memorized, that means they have to rememorize stuff for the next meet. And that is a challenge. But luckily in OP, we can go scripted or we can go memorized. And I would say as long as you're memorized by sectionals or state, then you're okay. And by the sectionals and state, we're not changing things so significantly. But there may be a line or two here and there. So if they're memorized, they're only having to memorize maybe a couple lines here and there. Rememorize or unmemorized things. Go ahead, Keegan. Use all of your resources. Teachers, teammates. Some of the best critiques we've gotten from our OPs have come from our extempors. And so we will use everybody. Hey, we just rewrote a scene in so-and-so's OP. Will you come watch this with us and give us some feedback? We have mock rounds before sectionals or state, depending on the timing. And we'll get teachers come in, and they've never seen these OPs, even though we've been doing them all year long. And so we'll get feedback from them. And so use any audience that you can in order to, get some feedback to make things better. Always be seeking. So, okay, I have about 5 minutes to go through the OP don'ts. Don't let reality hold you back. Mix reality and fantasy together. Like if we had set reality in on that first speech meet piece, then he could never have become invisible. And so, and that was a great scene where all of a sudden, they could hear him, but they couldn't see him. So, you're going to have to cut that because, but we didn't. We thought it was a great idea, so we mixed reality and fantasy together. Don't be afraid to break the fourth wall. A lot of our OPs, our central character breaks that fourth wall and talks to the audience. And it happens all the time in movies. Think about Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Bugs Bunny will look into the camera and say. So some of the greatest scripts ever have the central character breaking that fourth wall and talking to the audience or interacting with the audience. Don't allow students to pitch just one idea. I have a great idea. I want to write this. I want to write an OP about this. So I'll tell you what. That sounds great, but you have to be involved in this process too. And if you think the idea is so-so or stinks, have them pitch a couple other ideas that you can get behind. Because if you're going to be involved with this too, you've got to enjoy it too. And if you don't like the idea from the get-go, then you're not going to have passion behind it. If you have passion behind their OP, then they're going to do everything they can to constantly please you. And so they're going to be so excited to show you a new scene. Can I tell them a little bit about Angelo before we have a kid right now writing a scene. It's sort of a what do you call parody of Pinocchio, except we're calling it Patworkio. And G-Money Pedo is his father. And so this kid has been writing this since last April. And, hey, I got a new scene. He's constantly showing new scenes. And so, hopefully, and he's a rookie too. And so this is going to be a great first OP, I think, for him. All right, that's it. Now, I don't know if we have any time left. It's 2 o'clock exactly. Boom. All right. But I don't know where you're going next and if we have any break in between. But do any of you have any questions or comments that you'd like to share? I've been doing all the talking. I haven't had a whole lot of opportunity for interaction. Yes, Dave.
Yeah, most of what you gave us, for example, the movie props and then the idea of putting your character through hell, to me that would seem ideal and definitely work for humor. But about half of my OPs want to write serious ones. So surrounding with insane characters, putting him through hell wouldn't work in the case of a serious one.
I disagree. I disagree. I'll tell you why. I respectfully disagree. Because, because you can still, if you're writing a tragic one, you can still put this character through hell. And the insane characters, are very much, maybe the people that they have to deal with. The abusive father, the drunken mother. Those are the insane characters. When we say insane, I use that term loosely. People who are out of the, people who are menacing, out of their mind, people who are not themselves.
I was thinking more of our, little 5-part little actions.
Yeah, and our movie pitch might not work, but you could revise that. I mean, that was sort of our creation. You could revise that movie pitch. You don't have to follow those parameters. You could create your own prompts, and then, and have the kids plug it in. So I think that you could revise those prompts and create a tragic.
The insane characters, if it's comedy, then those insane characters are doing things that are making us laugh. If it's drama, those insane characters are doing things that are creating tension or building conflict or harming or hurting our central characters. So they're insane in a different way. And they're still impacting the script.
Yeah, they're horrifying us rather than making us laugh. So you guys were a marvelous audience. I appreciate all your input and thank you very much for being here. And if I still have some caramel apple pop, so if you like, come on down. Or if you'd like for me to share the PowerPoint, I'd be happy to do that with you too. Thank you very much.